What's up, guys? So today we have a special episode coming to you. This episode is coming to you at the end of my run with COVID. You can still probably hear some of the nasaliness in my voice. Hopefully, that's not too much of a deterrent to you. But yeah, so we're going to talk about my experience with COVID. I figured you guys may find something interesting in it. Maybe you're going through COVID now yourself and you're like, man, I wonder how other people's experiences were. I know for me, that was actually kind of helpful. Kind of actually listening to other people and how their whole situation went with it, and especially with other jiu-jitsu people that are similar to me, and, hearing them like say, it was tough for about a week or something, was like, okay, that's comforting. So maybe it'll give you some ideas or whatever. And then also I'll tell you how I'm dealing with it personally, and some of the strange, I would call it that, some of the strange struggles that I had with it that have nothing to do with the actual illness itself, but more to do with, me not being able to do my normal routines. So, with that said, hopefully you get something from this episode. Also, I'll give you kind of a warning. There will be a literally like a pinch, right? Like if you're doing some spices in your house, a little pinch of something, there's a little pinch of politicalness to the end of the podcast. I'm not, if you know my politics, you understand that I'm probably more of a centrist. I'm not all over the place. I'm not on the extreme, just not where I live. And so, with that said, I don't get too crazy, but I do give some information just because, as I'm a student of marketing, and a student of advertising, and you look at the way that news is done. And so I talk a little bit about, because a lot of people will say to me like, man, the news is just crazier than it's ever been, which to some degree are true. But the stuff has been around before, and I kind of talk about the origins of that a little bit. So again, more of a history lesson in that, more so than just a political rant. So just letting you guys know, because I know that for the most part, this is kind of a different episode. You guys don't really follow me for any of my political views, and I tend to try to keep it that way. So with that said, guys, thanks to our sponsors, Charlotte's Web. Charlotte's Web I was using it the whole time I was trying to go to sleep at night during the COVID. So I was using my Charlotte's Web tinctures. There was an interesting thing that I saw pop up on Facebook the other day. So I was looking at one of the Facebook groups. It's like the fans of Jiu-Jitsu. It used to be my own Jiu-Jitsu group, but I don't like having to police people. And it was so annoying. Like, people would just post something and everybody would get upset, and it would flag up and say, hey, like, this thing has been flagged for being, not nice or whatever the hell. And so I didn't want to deal with it anymore. So I gave it to a friend of mine, and they run it as the Fans of Jiu-Jitsu group. Well, someone was asking about Charlotte's Web, and then, people were saying like which ones they liked. And then there's a couple of people who are like, it's kind of overpriced or whatever. Anything you get at the store is going to be just as good. And it's interesting because with some supplements, you'd probably be honestly right. But again, as I've talked to you guys about it, like Charlotte's Web for sure is a little bit more expensive than the stuff that you would buy like off the shelf of some random store that you have locally. It's 100% correct. What you're paying with a lot of times with that is an infrastructure of both the testing that goes into it to make sure that you're actually getting what's actually in the bottle. Most companies don't do that. They don't test anything. You're also getting, the people that are creating these plants, so they don't have to use pesticides. And again, there's no guarantee that unless they test their stuff, there's no guarantee that you're getting pesticide-free CBD products, right? And again, that may not make a big difference when you're getting just a little bit or whatever here and there, but when you're getting a concentrated form broken down into like a supplement, you don't know what the long-term effects of that is. And so it's one of these things where it is a little bit more expensive, but it's also one of these things where if it ever does become regulated, which eventually it probably will, everybody's going to have to do that, right? Like, companies are going to have to raise their bar to a higher standard, because you can't just say, I've got some hemp that I got a hold of and they threw it together in a bottle and we just slapped a logo on it. I mean, because the reality is that's where most of it comes from. Most people don't know their farms. They don't know what's being grown on there. They don't know how it's being processed. They don't have any third-party testing done to it. They don't know anything like that. All they know is like, business is booming. People are buying CBD. like, hey, throw some CBD in here for me and let me sell it. It's one of the same things. If you guys have ever seen the movie Bigger, Stronger, Faster, he basically goes through the channels and creates a supplement. Now, the supplement is actually nothing but rice flour, but because of the unregulated supplement market, you can get away with that by putting proprietary blend on the back. And then afterwards, he ends up, creating these fake ads and stuff to sell it, and creates a whole weight loss supplement. And again, you can get away with some of that stuff because of the loopholes. And so with the CBD, a lot of people aren't necessarily focused on the actual quality of the product. They're focused on just basically, I'm going to take some money and run and gun it. And so again, it is a little bit more expensive, but the point of that is that you're getting a product that is painstakingly made. And that's a difference with Charlotte's Web opposed to a lot of CBD companies. It's tested, it's thorough, like rigorously tested. It's gone through so many things to actually create what's in that bottle. That's what it is. And so again, skimp if you want to. It's just not one. It's not one of those things that I'm personally, I would like to skimp on. I'd like to make sure that I'm getting a really good product that's going to help me. And so again, if you want to check out any of their stuff, you can do so at their website at charlottesweb.com, and you can use a promo code Jiu-Jitsu to save 15% on the order. And again, I would recommend, if you've never tried it, just get one of the tinctures. One of the oil tinctures. You get one of the lower dosages, like 17 milligrams. You try it out for a month, see what you feel. Everybody's endocannabinoid system is different. And so again, give it a whirl and then just kind of go take it from there. Thanks to our sponsor, Epic Roll. Roll BJJ.com is a jiu-jitsu brand for gear, clothing, gis, the whole thing, made by a jiu-jitsu practitioner himself. Right now, we're still in the process of getting some special rash guards and shorts made. But if you guys want to go into his website at epicrollbjj.com, tons of cool stuff. If you're watching the video of this right now, I've got his Kimura shirt on.
Hold on. There you go.
Right there, the Kimura lock shirt. It's very comfortable. It's a comfy shirt.
And as well, there's Chewy's.
Where's yours?
I've got the Jiu-Jitsu one. I think
it's the Jiu-Jitsu one.
Is it Brazil?
Brazil.
New York? No, New York. I think it's New York. I'm not sure.
But a lot of cool jiu-jitsu stuff. So if you want to check out his gear, his rash guards, his gis, any of his or his clothing, any of that stuff, everything and all can be purchased and received with a discount of Jiu-Jitsu for 15% off on the order page when you go to epicrollbjj.com and buy anything that they have at the store. Also, thanks to the sponsor, Manscaped. Manscaped is the premier men's below the belt grooming. And it may be the trimmer that I use to maybe trim off my beard. I was saying about trimming off my beard.
Completely.
I'm gonna probably leave a little bit. Like, I might trim it down to stubble. I haven't seen my face. I'm
the same way, man. I was like, my kids haven't seen me without like a shaven face. And I was like,
yeah.
A couple times I've been close. I have not though.
I think I'm gonna do it. I haven't shaved my face. I haven't, like, even down to like, because I used to wear I used to always have like that stubble look, you know?
Yeah.
But I haven't had that since 2016. Like the last time my face was completely shaven was like April of 2016. And so I'm like, I kind of wonder what I look like under here now, you know? And so I might trim my beard off. And if I do it, I'm going to do it with my lawnmower. No, but I really do like their products. They're excellent quality. They smell good. Last night, I as part of my smelling therapy to get my sniffer back, because I lost my sense of smell during the COVID, I was smelling different stuff, and I sprayed their cologne, and I could smell it. You know, it smelled good. So it still smells the same. Some people are getting those like phantom smells where they get really weird smells. My smell's coming back pretty normal, but again, they're very high quality products. So if you're a guy, or if you're someone that's, basically going to get a gift for a guy and you're looking to get them some really good grooming products, Manscaped has a lot of different options, lots of cool stuff. Everything that I've used from them has been top notch, from everything from the trimmer to the razors to the colognes and the scents of all the different products that they have. Everything's Awesome. And so again, I would encourage you to check it out for them. So again, manscaped.com, promo code is Chewjitsu20. You'll get 20% off the order and get free shipping. It's a pretty good deal on any of their products, and would highly recommend them. And also, guys, I had a bunch of people send me messages about reviews because they said that they like follow like I guess they listen to us on particular places that don't have reviews.
Okay.
Like one of them was iHeartRadio or something. I guess it doesn't have. If it doesn't have a reviewing platform, it's all good. Don't worry about it. You can follow us on YouTube if you want to, at the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast YouTube page. But if you don't have a review function, then you don't have to worry about it. If they got one, that's fine. And again, if you guys want to support the podcast, you can check out the Patreon. Patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. You can go in there and get some extras from the podcast, as well as some different videos and stuff like that. We may have a new thing in the works coming up in the near future to maybe replace the Patreon. More on that later. Just more details. And then again, guys, lastly, if you guys want to join the email list, if you were on the email list this week and you didn't get any emails, it's because I was just being lazy, as you'll hear about in a little bit. But you can go to chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN, and you can join the Chewjitsu email list, the Chew Crew email list. You'll get my emails, which are Monday through Friday. And if you think it would be a good idea to have a game plan for your jiu-jitsu game, or having a good idea of how to drill techniques, if you think it would be a good idea to have either one of those things, then if you join, I will send you 2 free ebooks on just those things: how to develop a game plan and how to drill for jiu-jitsu, both in an active fashion and a passive fashion, and if you have absolutely no control on how your classes are ran. So anyway, with that said, guys, let's talk about my COVID experience, and I'll tell you guys how it went, and we'll have fun in this sort of off the cuff sort of random episode today. So we did our podcast sessions last Friday.
Yes.
And when we were talking last Friday, I mean, for the most part, I felt okay. I didn't really feel bad. You know, I had a cough, remember? And that's why I didn't come over. I had a running nose and a cough.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. Do I sound like nasally at all?
Nasally.
Yeah, I'm a little nasally. I got like a little congestion in the nose.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. So I was like, all right. So that's why we did the podcast remote. And then I wanted some Thai food. Thai food just sounded good. So I ended up driving out to Simply Thai, and they brought out the food to the car and stuff like that. And then came home. We ate. And then while we were eating the Thai food, all of a sudden, like, I started getting really like fatigued. My sense of taste and smell were pretty much gone.
What? While you're eating?
While I was right after I was done eating, like the food itself kind of had a diminished taste, you know? And it was just like progressively as the night went on, as I kept getting more and more. And then I started feeling kind of run down and tired. And then like got the taste and smell, and I was like, oh shit, there it is. I got it. No taste and smell. It's bad news for me. And then that night I had like a low-grade fever for a few hours. I felt awful. I was in bed laying there. I couldn't sleep. And the fever eventually broke, and I literally couldn't sleep. That was the worst part about the first night, was like I wanted to go to sleep so badly. And I didn't have any, we didn't have any like NyQuil or anything else like that. We had like we had the daytime stuff, but we didn't have the nighttime stuff, which has like a sleep aid in it. And it's like it's an antihistamine that makes us tired. And so didn't have any of that. And so I couldn't go to sleep. I laid in the bed from like 11:30 till about like 4:30 off and on. And eventually I fell asleep around 5:00 and slept for a few hours or whatever. I felt okay Saturday, like afternoon. Saturday evening started to feel like crap again. Took some NyQuil this time. Just went and got some NyQuil for me and stuff. Slept. And then by Sunday, I felt okay. And then, but by the way, on Saturday morning, I woke up, I started taking vitamins. I already take vitamins anyway, like zinc and vitamin C and all that stuff. I just basically upped the dosage for a little bit while I'm going through this. And so I was taking my vitamins at heavier doses. and then forcing myself to eat food because you can't taste anything. And I had a little bit of nausea, but like, I mean, eating anything just took forever. It was like, because you just can't taste it. It's the strangest sensation to have the texture of food in your mouth, and you can almost, it's like your body can almost taste it. It's like, it just can't quite remember, but you're just sloshing like eggs. I remember I was eating eggs because eggs have a lot of vitamins in them. So I was eating eggs and some beef, and the texture of eggs without the taste of eggs is very strange. And then, but on Sunday I felt pretty much better. I had a cough and felt a little fatigued, but felt better. And then by Monday, Tuesday, I was like, yeah, I'm fine.
Did you get your taste back, or you still feel like?
Yeah, no, it's not fully back, but like I can taste pretty well. Honestly, my taste came back pretty quick. It's my smell that's the one that seems to be the slowest coming. So I could taste things again. I started tasting salty and sweet again, and then I can taste pretty strong, pretty good now. Probably about like, probably 60% taste now. And then the smell though smells like probably 25-30%. Like it's weird because like I remember the first thing, it's funny, the first thing I actually smelled coming back was a scented candle. So I found out there's this stuff called smell therapy where basically they put different smells and you smell
essential oils and stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, I mean, Jess has a ton of essential oils, and so I got a bunch of like scents lined up, and had some oranges and lemons and stuff like that, as well as like peppermint oils and eucalyptus oils and lavender and things like that. And I was just like sniffing stuff, like trying to get some. And it's so weird because, for instance, smelling peppermint, I can feel the feeling of smelling peppermint go through my nose, right? Where you can feel that it cools it down, but I can't smell the peppermint. It's so weird. It's like having the texture of the food without the taste. It's just like you can feel the peppermint, but you can't smell the peppermint. And then, but then I remember I was sitting down on my computer, and we had a scented candle, and this is a few hours after some of the smell therapy stuff I was doing. And I took it and sniffed it, and I could smell lavender in the candle. And I got up, I was so excited. I did like a little happy dance around, and Jess is just cracking up because I can smell a lavender candle. I was like, yeah, it's back. So, and it's progressively getting better. Like I keep smelling like different stuff that I haven't been able to smell yet, like coffee grounds. I've got those again. I can smell, I was laying out in the sun and just walking around out in the sun yesterday. And like, you know how your skin gets that smell when it's in the sun? You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Like, again, I have a pretty good sniffer.
Like an outdoorsy smell?
Kind of. The skin that's been hit with the sun has a particular smell to me. And then so like I was sniffing and I could smell that again. I was like, I have that smell again. So it's starting to come back. And, other than, like I said, other than the cough and a little bit of nasal drainage, which again, it's not even been a full week since everything really blasted me. I was like, that's pretty good. Like I did some yoga and some long walks and stuff like that. And I feel pretty good in the deep breathing and everything that I did. Like it was interesting to watch. I got one of those, I'll be honest, the hardest part about the illness was the fear of it.
That's what I was going to ask you.
It was the worst part because it was like, you don't know, because it's such a friggin' wild card of like, what kind of effects are you going to have? Because I mean, I've known people who have had some really bad goes with it. And then I've had people that basically had nothing, literally like nothing, and so you just don't know how much viral load did you get? Like, how is the virus going to present itself in your body? Like, you don't know. And that's the scariest part. And that was why,
Right.
That's why I couldn't sleep the first night. It wasn't like the illness. It was the fear of, what is this going to turn into? Even though deep down I know, I'm like, well, I have like a great chance of being fine with this thing because I'm a healthy person. My heart's in great shape. I mean, even like it was interesting. Like I got a blood oximeter, just in case. I was like, because who knows, maybe things go south and I need to be mindful of it. So I was like, let's get this blood oximeter. And Jess bought one for me at the grocery, and I was keeping track, kind of seeing where my heart rate was because I was curious.
Mm-hmm.
And, my heart rate, while I'm like really dealing with it, like the days where like my body's really fighting this stuff off and it's elevated, it's around like 90, and then like 70 to 90 is where it was sitting. And then now it's back down to its normal, which is like if I'm sitting down, not doing a whole lot, if I'm like watching a movie or something, my heart rate's usually around 50, So it's like, my heart rate, my heart's strong, so it can take that punishment where it's like all of a sudden it's working really hard and it's still under what some people's normal resting heart rate is, you know? And then, my body I was able to continue to eat food and make sure I didn't lose fluids or anything like that. And, so I had an okay go, but I mean, it was really the hardest part was like dealing with the fear of it. Like I was talking to, one of the guys who's like, he kind of is an acting sort of primary care guy for me. He's the one that kind of looks at all my blood work with me and everything else and gives me guidance and that stuff. And he was basically talking me down off of a ledge because I was like, so like I was worried about pneumonia because like, I had the cough. I was like, oh my God, is this going to go bad? But it ended up just kind of going away, but so that was my experience with COVID. It kicked my ass for about 48 hours or so. And then afterwards progressively got better. And I think I got it because I ran myself down.
That's what I hear from a lot of people. You brought up a great point. And if people know, like Joe Rogan you guys got caught it around the same time. Seems
I'm like a few days after him.
Yeah. So like he was talking about his story was like, he's like went out drinking all night, went played pool, didn't sleep at all. Like we were flying in from a show, all this crazy stuff. And and like, I'm hearing that and hearing, what you've gone through. I'm like, you've done the same thing. You've been just going nonstop. Right. And I feel like you probably, some of that running yourself down. You're even showing the little videos of yourself floating on the little fake river you guys had because of all the rain, but you were just bouncing around, hosting people and just going nuts.
So you saw it where basically about a month ago, I had an upper respiratory infection.
Yeah.
It was not COVID. It was just an upper respiratory infection. Just in our area right now, we're having a weird, a weird upper respiratory infection season that usually takes place in the winter. But it's hitting in the summertime. Like several of my students and friends that are nurses that work in ICUs and stuff, I was asking them a while ago, I'm like, are you guys overrun with COVID? They're like, no, we're overrun with like normal upper respiratory stuff that's hitting at a different time of year. And which is a problem because if you think about like, say like ICUs and stuff, they don't keep hundreds and hundreds of beds open. It doesn't, because it would be too expensive. Like if you're running an ICU or something, you can't just have like unlimited amounts of beds available. I mean, because of the staffing and the machinery and everything else, it would cost to just have that there. It'd be too expensive. So there's a lot of forecasting that goes on from what I understand. And, the forecasting is not used to having summer respiratory stuff like that, where at least in our area, it's not a thing. And so it's hitting at a weird time. And then the COVID on top of that creates a problem. But, so I had an upper respiratory infection, and honestly, that was probably to me worse than the COVID was because that thing, you remember, dude, like I had a cough forever, like it just it wouldn't go away. And again, it wasn't COVID; it was just the upper respiratory thing. And I think I was weakened from that. And then we traveled, went to Colorado, came back from Colorado, immediately started prepping for the camp, did the jiu-jitsu. Meanwhile, I'm in my head, I'm thinking about Worlds, so I'm trying to train hard. And then we do the camp. The camp is 3 days of like constant go, multiple times a day. I have to be like on, meaning like I have to be giving myself away. And then on Monday, the Sunday after the camp, that's when I think I probably started getting something because I was exhausted from the camp. And I forced myself to get up a little bit earlier the next morning so I could go lift weights. And I got up and had a killer leg workout. But I remember doing that leg workout and I just felt off. Like I felt like I was kind of tired and I was like, it's okay, whatever. And then for the rest of the week, I just felt kind of funky. Just didn't feel like myself. But it was okay. I just like, if I took a little bit of rest, I seemed like I feel like I was getting better,
Yeah.
And on Thursday, I came into the gym by like basically on the other side and just lifted weights. I didn't do anything else. And then on Friday, man, boom, it hit. And then, but I think I got it from getting over an upper respiratory infection and then doing all this stuff. And then, because I think if I wouldn't have I think if on that past Monday, had I just let myself rest, I think I wouldn't have gotten anything. Cause I mean, like,
Yeah.
I think, because I feel like there's been so many times where I've been around it so many times and I never got anything. But most of those times I was getting more adequate rest and stuff like that. And I think the big issue was from the just really wearing myself down that weekend at the camp, was too much.
What's Worlds going to look like for you?
I don't know. Yeah, I think we're just going to see, because I was like,
how far out?
Let's see. So at the time of filming this, it's September 10th, and let's see. So
3-4 weeks.
1, 2, 3 of 3 weeks of actual training, and then the 4th week was when it would be there. So 3 more weeks until it's the week of. So we'll see. I'll definitely go because I've already paid for my flight, so I'll go down there.
Okay.
I'll go down there and support the guys because we've got a few guys competing. But we'll see how I feel in training, because I mean, I haven't done any hardcore workouts yet. I'm gonna try to maybe jump on the bike tomorrow morning. I have a bike in the garage. I'm gonna jump on the bike and just kind of see what it feels like to get my heart rate a little bit elevated, and see how that feels.
Yeah, I would look at how long it takes your heart rate to get down too, right? So some of that heart rate recovery.
Yeah.
That's kind of an important thing. Just seeing how quickly your heart rate gets down to that, like, a more comfortable resting state.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a good predictor, right? Because like between rounds, say you have a minute, we have a 6-minute round, and then we have a minute to kind of rest. You can kind of feel your heart kind of start to get back to that. So you'll see, like, am I recovering in time? And I think that's good. That's just something to look at. And then and seeing how high your heart rate gets up, and then it probably gets up pretty quickly. You'll get up there pretty quickly, and then you'll feel like just out of sorts. Yeah, just get back. But the other thing is how are you going to taper that? Like, how are you going to bring that up?
Easy,
right? Yeah. You don't want to, because you're probably still vulnerable. Like, your systems are still kind of weakened.
For sure.
You don't want to bounce back into, get back into something too crazy. But
and I think that's the big thing to, like, everything's a takeaway, right? Or there's takeaways, and I I'm one of those guys, and this. I try to find the meaning in everything that I'm doing, including getting sick, right? And I think the meaning in this was, for me, is like to take it easy, to give a little bit more time for rest and stuff, because I'm very productive and I do a lot of stuff, but sometimes I think I need to back off a little bit. And in this case, I think that, like, this week, so I've felt pretty good since Wednesday mentally, right? So, like, again, physically, I don't feel like I could go bust through a wall or anything right now. I feel like I could probably lift some weights or something, but as far as physically or mentally, I feel pretty sharp. I'm able to talk to you, and I've been doing my writing and stuff like that I do, and planning for the upcoming weeks and stuff, because I got to do something. I started feeling really like I felt like I was like losing myself or something when I wasn't doing anything, because for several days of just sitting around watching movies and stuff, I'm just not used to that lifestyle. And so I'm like, I got to do something. Like, I just feel like I haven't done anything. I haven't seen anybody. Like, my life feels so strange right now.
Do you feel like you'd fall off? Like, you feel like for not doing it, like you'll get out of the habit of, like, that work ethic that you've built over the years?
No, not at all. It's nothing like that. It's more of like, it's like just being in a vegetables like state for multiple days. And then when I came out of it and I was mentally, like, I felt good, it just felt weird to not do anything. And I'm not worried about my work ethic, because my work ethic will come back online as soon as I'm going. And I'm already working on stuff project wise that I have coming up. But it just felt weird to, like, for instance, not seeing anybody, because there's so much of the purpose in my life is derived from my communication with people. You know what I mean? Is like actually interacting with people and face to face, and being able to do that kind of stuff, and not doing that work. It was like, it's very like, it's like, bro, it doesn't feel good at all. You know,
do you
feel
alone?
Huh?
You feel like alone, like lonely in a way?
Lonely in a way. I mean, I got Jess, and she's awesome.
But,
so, like, I don't feel lonely. But there's like something missing. We'll say like that, not lonely, but something's missing, right? Like that's something that spark that gets me all excited to do stuff. It's just like, it's like I'm missing that thing because I'm not there doing all the stuff that I like doing with my life, and doing the things that bring me a great sense of meaning. I was actually reading a study where they said that there's kind of a window, an ideal window of, like, relaxation time for people, where it's like 2 to 5 hours. They said on a daily basis, 2 to 5 hours seems to be like the sweet spot. If it's too little, like if it's not like up to at least 2 hours of relaxation time, then you can feel just overworked, overstressed, everything else. If it's over 5 hours though, people reported having like a sense of like lack of meaning in their life because they're just not productive. And so it's like, I feel like for me, it's just like, I don't know where my magical number is, but I think I just got too much relaxation. I'm like, man, I need to get out and do some shit. So, and do something. So, that said, this week, I'm really forcing myself to not do much. Like, I haven't written any emails. If people are on my email list, if they notice,
I was saying if there was any emails.
Yeah, no emails this week. I've had several people say, "Hey, Chewy, where's my email? Is everything all right?" I'm like, no emails, no Instagram posts, no YouTube videos, no nothing. Just like an exercise in restraint because it's so easy to get. Just like you can get sucked into like laziness. You can get sucked into. You can get sucked into like just working and saying never giving yourself like just a little bit of time off. Cause even when I go on vacations, I'm still kind of working a little bit. And, I'll still write emails. I'll still be posting videos. I'll still be doing all kinds of stuff. And so it was just like, let's do nothing for a whole week. And I knew, and this maybe doesn't sound challenging to people, but this is incredibly challenging to me. This is super hard. Like I want to cause today's Friday. So it's like the last, it's the last day of my imposed, sort of like not working, which again sounds ridiculous, but for me it's tough. And so, that's my own hang up. And so for me, I'm like just trying to just chill a little bit. Let's do nothing for a whole week and just relax, recover. And then next week I'll begin to ease back into training, ease back into work, and ease back into my normal routine and just kind of test my boundaries wherever they might be at right now, just to make sure.
Yeah, you have a connection to people, whether it's through technology or personally in the gym, right? I mean, even personally through technology, you connect with people. So not being on that, having that restraint, that was just interesting to me because you can find yourself just, like kind of like losing yourself, like losing your routine in a way as well. And I think routine is so important for many people, just to keep their stress levels at bay because kind of how your day is structured, how your life is kind of, or how your day's supposed to go, what you need. And I know that feeling of like, I'm supposed to be doing something right now. It's something like in the back of your head, just constantly like, you can't almost calm your brain down. So I'm curious, like, as far as like, what was helpful to you during this time? You say you did some writing, you did some kind of some different things. What kind of exercises were you doing? Anything specific? And this can be good for people that are maybe out for injury or out for other illnesses, that maybe family issues, whatever. What do you feel like was helpful for you to kind of keep your mind in a good place and just to get yourself through it?
You mean like the sickness or just like not doing anything?
Just a little bit of both. I mean, there's some with uncertainty of like when you're going to come back. Like say you're injured. It's like you don't know when you're going to come back or how you're going to come back, right? You've got things to do. But also just like keeping in a good mental space. Just because, the gym is a huge part of your life, right? I mean, training is a big part of who you are and what you do. So like, how did you kind of navigate all that?
Well, I mean, so there's a time to worry, and again, I was worried when the illness began or whatever, but there's a time to worry or a time to get upset or time to do all that stuff. It's typically not in the middle of something. So for instance, if you go gambling, right? I don't gamble, but let's say you gamble. Let's say if you're in the roulette table. I read this the other night. Imagine you're going up there and you're going to make a bet. The time to worry about it is before you make the bet. Once you make the bet and the wheel's spinning, it's too late. And so for that, like if you're injured and stuff like that, you're injured. So what? Like there's no reason to worry about anything else. It's already happening. So you just kind of roll with it. You just do it. It's like being in the middle of a roll with someone. If they sweep you, well, I mean, you should have been more focused and more aware of your grips and everything else before it happened. But since you got swept, just deal with it now. Now you're in a bad spot and you're just going to have to deal with it and work out of it. So I don't know. I don't tend to get too, like, I'm not one of those people. I've been around too long to worry about, like, most people have this obsession with, like, if they're somehow going to lose their progress or lose the forward momentum that they had. I don't really ever worry about that, because it's like, I know it's, it's like our ego. Our ego's getting like, you got really good or something, and then now your ego's wrapped around doing that thing, and this is why for me, like, taking the week off and not doing anything, it's hard for my ego, because again, we all sort of, when we look at ourselves, we think about, like, if we say, who are you? A lot of who you will explain to me who you are is going to be stories about what you do. And so a lot of times we take a huge amount of our identity in the things that we do. So not doing anything for like a week is weird, because it's like, well, then who am I right now? Like, because I'm not doing anything that I say that, I'm a jiu-jitsu coach, but I ain't doing no jiu-jitsu right now. I'm a guy that communicates to people on the internet and assists people with their training and their mindset and their own personal struggles. I ain't doing that this weekend, right? So it's like, I'm the guy that's sitting around outside listening to water run and looking up at the sky. Like, that's all I'm doing this week. And hung out with Jess a lot, which was nice. Got to hang out with Jess a lot more, and watched a bunch of movies. But as far as you just roll with it. I mean, that's the only thing you can do, right? Like, you can't control circumstances. You can just basically, sometimes you're dealt a hand, and you just play that hand in as best you can, and you just do it. The time to worry about things before they happen. So, for instance, with the disease, the illness of the COVID, right? The time to worry about it is like, hey, for instance, I should be worried about my health and my vitamins and my sleep routine and getting enough rest. All that stuff should be first, but I got it. Right. So now it's like, all right, let's just do what we can, and just roll with it. So I don't get too worried about, as far as training or something like that. When I'm off, I'm just kind of just waiting, because I know it'll come back. I've had too many layoffs. I've been laid off for, at this point, probably combined at least 1.5 years, 2 years of my training, of my overall training time. If you were to take all my injuries and stack them on top of each other, I've probably been off the mat out of my, what is it now, 2021, out of my, what is that, 19 or 12, 18 years. Out of my 18 years, it's probably, you're probably looking at close to 2 years of that is not actual training time. It's time where I was off for illness, for injuries, for work, for all kinds of stuff. And I know that it always kind of comes back. So it's just whatever. You just go with it.
I know we kind of talk about motivation, and motivation is a tricky thing. Some people are big into motivation. I would say, what I've gathered, from being around you, it's not really a motivation thing. A lot of times it's more, it's just kind of what you do. But like, do you feel like this time off, like kind of almost like taking this break, has recharged the batteries a little bit? Like, I wouldn't say motivate you, but like more like recharge you to like get, like, focus on some things, or gave you a little more clarity on maybe what you want to accomplish?
Yeah, I think that anytime you take distance away from things, it always does that. Like, a lot of times on the days where, or like different periods of time, I'll take a solo vacation.
Yeah.
Or even when you and I were out in Colorado, anytime I get distance from the things that I normally do, or the people that I'm normally around, it gives me a lot of clarity with what I'm doing, because you get to step away. It's like if an image or a painting, if you held it up like to the tip of your nose, you wouldn't be able to see what it was. It would be like, if it was like, let's say if you had a painting, for instance, that was maybe a 3x5, 3 feet by 5 feet or something, a really large painting, right? If you pulled your nose up to it, and right on the tip of the nose, you would just see these blurs of color, or whatever maybe it's black and white. I don't know, but we'll say it's a color painting, the color there. But if you step back, you can then sort of see the whole thing, and it's like, there it is, right? And so it's kind of like that. Sometimes it's a way to take a couple steps back so you can see the full picture, and it allows you to judge things a little bit more holistically, or give you the ability to judge it while there's space from it. I feel like sometimes it's hard to judge things that are going on in your life when you're in the middle of the routine, right? It's like being in the eye of the storm. You can't really get a good feel for what's going on around you because you're in the middle of it. But when you can take that distance from it, it's very helpful as far as trying to put the pieces in place and determine your next course of action and where you want to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, you know, it's interesting. Like we've talked about this COVID thing, like when it first started, right? And it's almost like it's like COVID 2.0. It's like we're just like going through it again in a different way, and there's almost some weird level of acceptance in a way to like, man, maybe life is kind of changed, and hopefully not forever, but like it's just a weird thing. I don't know. Like I can't, like, I'm still trying to figure out what it all means. And like I don't know how it's going to alter things.
I don't know. I mean, the thing is like I talked to a friend of mine who works in a big pharmaceutical company, right? And we were talking last year, and I believe it was in like September. And, you know, he was talking about, man, like this thing ain't going away. You know, like his company has a department for this thing now, right? They got a COVID department. You know, you're not going to be a large pharmaceutical company making a department for something that's just a fly by night thing. And, you know, the thing's going to mutate, right? So, I don't know. I still, I'm one of those people. I'm like, if you take really good care of yourself, you have a better. I mean, this isn't even just me. This is the facts of it, right? If you take good care of yourself, you're probably going to have a better run of it. You know, like you're just going to. It's the way it's going to work. If you have some illnesses, you know, the sad part is some people can't control the illnesses that they have. Absolutely. Or can't control the conditions. You know, like if you're older, you were born at a certain time, that's not your fault. Or if you have, you know, some autoimmune issues that you were born with, or that you just got different times because your DNA, you know, basically turned on at a certain time, people get like different illnesses. You can't control any of that. That stuff's tough to deal with. And it's cool that they're coming out with a lot more treatments. Like monoclonal antibodies and stuff like that. That's like one of the therapeutics that they've been using for some people. And then obviously, I'm sure the vaccination technology will probably become improved over time, right? But I think at the same time, like, you know, you can't shut down the world for this stuff. It's because it ain't going anywhere.
Well, we tried, right? They tried to shut it down. Now,
we tried. Shit don't work.
Yeah, we're here. We're like the same kind of, I don't know, the same or maybe worse, or I don't know, man. I'm not like I'm not a specialist in this, but like I think there's good, there's just you got to weigh it out, right? You got to weigh it out. Like you can be scared to be around people, but you can also think about, you know, if you avoid people, what kind of mental and physical, you know, detriment it will be. You know, like being away from people. Like I think connection and people, being around people is something what we're naturally inclined to do. I mean, I think we're us that go to jiu-jitsu, you know, we go because we love jiu-jitsu, but we also go for the people, you know, people, like I say this all the time. People look at me and I tell them, like, you know, I train. They ask me, like, if I train, sure. Where do you train? I'm like, out here. How far does it, you know, I was like, don't you have gyms right around where you're at? I was like, yes. Why do you go out there? Well, it's you know, not just the training, it's the people. I mean, that it's simple. Like it's the environments that it's my friends. It's my people that I care about and I enjoy being around. So like, it's one of those things, like people are important. Our interactions are important. And it's important for us, you know, for many different reasons, mental health and, you know, I guess in some ways motivation or ideas or creativity or just happiness, really. Like, I mean, I'm happy when I'm at the gym or around, you know, you and around people that I care about. So
yeah, it's yeah, I mean, that's okay. Like I don't know. Like going through it, I could like this whole thing, like, because again, I've been around everybody since last year, and I never got it. I didn't even have antibodies last year, you know, because I was like for sure someone gave me something, you know what I mean? But no, I didn't have anything. And so I could see where this thing could really screw you up mentally, because of the boogeyman that's associated with it. And because of the unpredictable nature of it at times.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Because it's like the way that your body handles it can be so different from person to person. And so that's kind of a freaky thing. But on the whole, I mean, for the most part, if you're healthier and you're younger, you're probably going to have a good go with the thing, and so you'll probably be okay. What's really been sad about this whole thing, I think, is the way that, because I remember I was telling Jess, I remember we were in Costa Rica in 2020, January. So before COVID, January 2020. And I remember telling her, like, I wish that there would be I wish aliens would come down and like put basically Independence Day style, put us in like the world in an existential crisis. Basically these aliens are going to kill humanity. And so if you guys don't band together, it's going to be gone. So then they've got to find their Will Smith and stuff and fight back. Right. So, and I was saying this because something like that would be useful for bringing people together, we're all of a sudden everybody's in the fight together, but unfortunately, COVID comes around, and when it happens, I'm thinking okay, there's a virus that may be potentially threatening towards the whole world at this point, right? Cool. Like maybe this will help bring people together on some level, and it did the opposite, right? Everything got so politicized from everything. I mean, and some of the stuff, I don't agree with, I don't agree with basically forcing people to take a medication that they don't want to. I just don't agree with it. I don't. I don't, for one of the, and just for letting you guys know, it's because just saying that alone, people have a particular idea of who you are. But at the same time, I don't think people are chipping us with a vaccine, right? For instance, I saw somewhere where they said they're chipping us for vaccines. I'm like, for what? So they can track us? I'm like, you have a phone. They can track you all the time. You voluntarily do it. It's like, remember what's that?
It's so true.
I mean, bro, remember the Patriot Act? We voluntarily went along with that thing because it sounded good, right? Patriot Act. If you don't support this thing, you're not a patriot. You couldn't argue with it back in the 2000s because of what happened. We're getting ready to be on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and you think about that Patriot Act when it came out, you're like, this huge page of document, it should have been called the Hardcore Surveillance Act, right? Not the Patriot Act. They gave it a nice sounding name. You can't argue with it. It's like the political slogans that we have today, where how can you argue with some of them? It's because it's like, if you don't support this, then you're this. And so, you see the stuff being used over and over again. But so again, I don't think they're going to chip us. It's I think that everybody's just scrambling. You know what I mean? And again, I don't know. I'm just not one of those people. And so it's it's such a weird predicament to be in, where you're in the middle somewhere, and you're like, all you people seem crazy to me. Everybody is trying to, and it's so interesting to see people's hypocritical nature. They will take a hard stance on one thing, but then when that same logic would apply to something else, completely, they don't get it. That's different. I'm like, it's the same thing. Logically, on an argument level, it's the same thing, but now you're changing it because of your team. You know what I mean? And so it's just bizarre. So I was really bummed out when that happened, because I was like, this could be, to me, a chance to bring people together. But all the politicians and the news media outlets and stuff like that, they just ran with it and turned this into a giant shit show.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, because I think you're right. It could be something that we all, I think some of it's getting the proper information out, and getting information that's not slanted or skewed. And sometimes you have to be you have to do your research in a way. And I'm not saying I'm great at doing research, but I'll try to look at multiple sides of the same story and see if I can figure out my own interpretation that makes sense, that I feel is, because the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Right.
And see, and there's skewing news a little bit, like if you have a particular slant is one thing, but there's so much outright lying going on all sides.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
You know,
Yeah.
where like they'll say like this. And by the way, it's interesting because I'm, you know, for people that listen to the Joe Rogan podcast, I listened to his first one when he came back from COVID because I wanted to hear how his experience went. I was like, okay, like because he just had it around. Like,
well, I was texting you about. I was like, did you listen to this yet? Have you heard like how there's like portraying information? It was just funny.
Yeah. And so I was like, yeah, let's listen to it, you know. And so I was listening to, you know, the kind of the stuff that he was going through, and you know, the whole thing with ivermectin and the calling it horse dewormer, and the article about the fake article about how, you know, the ivermectin overdoses were causing so many deaths or so many hospitalizations that they couldn't get gunshot wounds in, and obviously completely fake, you know. But, you know, it's interesting because a lot of people, I'm a student of advertising, marketing, and in some ways, like just the way that information is shared in the media, because I find it fascinating. And so I, you know, read stuff on this and try to dig up like old stuff, like old advertisements and old news stuff. And there's an interesting time period in American journalism, which is referred to a lot of times as like, they'll say the era of yellow journalism. And there was a period where you had guys like Randolph Hearst and Pulitzer. So now Pulitzer, if you got like a Pulitzer Prize or whatever, it's actually considered to be like a good thing. But back in the day, Randolph Hearst and Pulitzer ran these opposing newspapers, and they were at the best, at best, they were sensationalists. At the worst, they were friggin' downright lying. And it's interesting because you could go back and look at them. I forgot the newspaper. I want to say it was like the New York's, I forget what it was. You can look up like Randolph newspaper headlines or whatever. You can go find these online. And they would sell these things on the street, and they would sell them for, you know, super cheap. And basically what they had to do is they had to make sensationalized headlines right on the front page to get people to buy them, because they're basically, you know, this is, imagine like the, hey, extra, read all about it, you know, that kind of guy. Yeah. And so basically they're holding these newspapers out, and they've got to get people to buy them. Imagine clicking, right? Okay, they got to get people to click, they got to get people to buy, because that's how they would sell their newspapers. So these headlines were super sensationalist, and they were a lot of times they were lying. Like there was if you look at the way that the Spanish-American War happened, and the reason I bring this up is because everybody's like, man, like news has never been like this before. I'm like, it was like this before. And so if you look at the Spanish-American War, there were basically, if you look, the Randolph Hearst was running these like things that were just fake. Like, for instance, there was this story about this woman who was strip searched because there was a Cuban revolution going on at the time, and we were sympathetic to the Cubans, not to the old colonial European powers. And so these Cubans are fighting, and there was a Cuban woman that apparently was strip searched on her way to America to get to Florida or whatever. And so he had this illustrator draw this picture of these men sitting around a woman, because obviously they don't have photographs at this time. These men sitting around this woman as she's naked, like basically, and telling this story. And it got the American public into such an outrage. Now, it never actually happened. Like basically it was a complete, I mean, it happened on some level where she was being transported from Cuba, but she was never like stripped down to nudity from Spanish like representatives. It was fake. And then there was the bombing, or the not the bombing, but the explosion of the USS Maine. So the USS Maine blows up because it's a converted steamship. Essentially, it was a wooden ship that then got converted to steam. And for whatever reason, this was a problem, because for some reason they used to put the weapons rooms next to the boiler room. Well, you can imagine a lot of chances for crap to go wrong, right?
Yeah.
So we had a Navy, like a Navy person came out from the U.S. Navy when it blew up. they found that their thing was they thought it was an explosion based on this design that they had done. They didn't think there was anything to do with the Spanish. The Spanish sailors were out saving the American sailors once the thing happened. And so all these things are going on. The newspaper basically just runs by the USS Maine was like, bombed or blown up by an enemy or something, and they had this whole story. So anyway, getting to it, we went to war partly because there were war hawks in the United States government that wanted to, because they thought it would be a good thing for the United States to go back to war, to fight someone. It would be good for bonding everyone together after the Civil War. And they also wanted to gather up some of the Spanish colonies for coaling stations, like in the Philippines. So like, yeah, let's do all this stuff. And so they go to war for essentially false pretenses that aren't true, And it was done a lot, and the big chunk was done by the media to sell newspapers, because Randolph Hearst is trying to hustle newspapers. And so a lot of that kind of came to an end when the subscription model happened, where people would subscribe to a particular newspaper, subscribe to a particular news outlet. And so you didn't have to be first. You could work on presenting a good article, or a good a good sort of well-rounded view of the news, because you weren't fighting to sell newspapers, you're fighting to sell good news. Mm-hmm. And then that kind of stuff ended when, you start seeing where essentially there's just so much as information's become democratized. It's a good thing overall. One of the negative sides to it is, like, everybody's fighting for the story. And so, you don't want to be last. But I just think it's interesting because people are acting like this news cycle has never happened before. It's happened before. But I believe it was Ronald Reagan. I could be wrong about this, but there was an actor or something that was done where basically kind of gave newsrooms and a bit of a immunity to where they can just kind of get away with saying stuff, and there's no repercussion to them. So basically they can just say whatever the hell they want to, and they can downright lie, and it's okay, rather than being like, you've got to uphold some level of integrity, and if not, we're going to hold you to it. To me, it's like that's a problem, because I think that's one of the big issues right now is you have all these different places coming out with like news, and there's no regulation to it. And I'm generally not a big guy on regulation, but when you have people just lying and they just continually do it over and over again, and there's never a, hey, like someone lost their job for this or something, it's a bad thing. Because, just like, with that article that there was talking about the ivermectin overdoses, someone out there, and probably a large number of people, never saw the retraction. They probably saw the front one, and they're like, all these stupid idiots, right? And then they never saw the retraction. Oh, by the way, that wasn't true. It's like they probably never saw that. They just saw that first one. And the news outlets aren't going to pump the retraction. They're going to pump the one that's going to be sensationalized. Yeah. And so you got to be careful with it. It's one of the nastier sides to, like I said, the democratization of information. It's like when there's a historian, his name's Neil Ferguson. He was talking about this in one of his books, where when information became democratized, like back when we have printing presses, when the printing press was first invented in the West, because they were kind of around at different times in the East for a while. But when the West finally sort of got its first printing press going, what was it, like the 1500s, we started printing out Bibles in people's common language, so everybody can read the Bible. Everybody can understand what it was, instead of basically it is only in Latin, right? And that's a good thing, because then regular people can read it rather than the priests interpreting it to whatever they want to. Say, hey, priest, what does it say? God says you need to do this. And who knows, you know what I mean? Like, they don't know, like, because they can't read it. And so it's a good thing. But one of the other things that got printed was like information on how to spot a witch, right? So basically, the witch trials, we know about the witch trials, right? Yeah. Well, there were pamphlets being printed out about how to find witches, so again, kind of a bad thing that came as a byproduct of a lot of information. And so this kind of cycle that we're in, it's happened before. It just hasn't happened in the same way. But this idea of like too much information that's come out because of the democratization of information has kind of happened on a small scale before. And so you you just see these problems happening again.
Mhm.
And so it's just interesting. So the only reason I bring that up is because I know like a lot of people like are probably like me that are like, you know, this stuff freaks you out and you don't like the way that the news is going and you don't like the way the media is going, but it's happened before. You know, it's like every situation's unique, of course, but the underlying roots of it have happened before.
Well, yeah, it's just we have so much more accessibility to information, and it's like it's like constantly, you know. But before it was like newspapers, right? You have to go and get your newspaper, and then it was like the news outlets on TV, the cable news. Now it's like social media, and you're getting it over and over, and you're getting, and then if you're getting the same type of information over and over, you start to kind of, you know, if you follow a certain outlet, you're going to start to believe it because you're seeing consistently similar things. But like moving on, Chewy, if you had to maybe give, if you think there's any takeaways from this whole experience, are there any takeaways that you have? If you have to kind of summarize it or put like a little stamp on it, like what it learned, or, you know, kind of how it affected you.
Yeah. So like I told Jess, I'm big on setting boundaries for myself, because boundaries allow me they give me like a place to play in and work in.
Yeah.
But they let me know where the line is. I've talked about this before in the show that Jess and I, like we have boundaries set. So for instance, I told her when we started dating, I don't want to be on a short leash as a guy. Like guys like to have some freedom to ourselves. We just do. And when and I'm sure women are probably the same way, right? You like to have a little bit of freedom to yourself. You don't want someone breathing down your neck and feeling like a second parent. So I told her, I was like, just give me a fenced in yard, you know, and I'll make sure I stay within the boundaries, right? That's the idea. And so as our relationship's grown, we kind of understand, you know, and again, every relationship's different. I know where her boundaries are with certain things, right? So like there's certain things that I know bother her. And so I think these are her boundaries. I need to keep those in mind. And she knows where mine are. And so we keep those in mind. And then, you know, with that, like even with my work and living situation, you know, this is always the battle, right? It's always this balancing act with what you're doing. And one of the things that I used to be better at was doing mandatory lazy Sundays. You know, and basically Sundays used to be the day where Jess and I would just hang out. I usually get up early in the morning and kind of do a little bit of reading or work or whatever. And then we kind of hang out and watch movies or just relax and whatever. And I was like, I got to make I got to set a boundary on making sure I do that, because again, it's really hard for me to do that. I'm a person that thoroughly enjoys activity. And so it's hard for me sometimes to just say, it's okay to do nothing right now. And like I said, that may not be everybody's thing, but that's my thing. And so I think that's one of the things where I'm going to, we've talked about it, about making a concerted effort to draw a boundary around that and be like, I'm not going hard on Sundays.
Yeah.
Sundays are going to be rest days. Sundays are going to be just easy stuff and whatever else. And, you know, make some time for that kind of stuff. Because I think that's important. And, you know, that's kind of where I've gotten from, is basically just making a little bit more time for that rest and, you know, not having any sort of ulterior motive with it. You know, it's like, it's going to be rest so I can come back and grind, and rest so I'll come back and just rest to rest, just relax, you know, and take it easy a little bit. Because I think that's one of the reasons why in the last month I've probably had, or about month and a half, I've had a little bit more, I've been more sick in the last month and a half than I've been sick in my life for like the last 10, 15 years. You know, I mean, I haven't been sick like this forever. And so it's like, it doesn't make any sense. And so I think it just, it's one of those things where I just have to be a little bit more mindful. And so that's what my takeaway was, it for me personally, was just to set that boundary a little bit more.
Right on. That's cool. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better, brother.
Thank you, dude. Can't wait to be back in the gym. I'm excited I've got a kettlebell in the garage, so I'm going to see what I can do with that today. See if I can do a little something. Do some shoulder presses or something. See how terrible it feels.
Yeah, it's fun though. Like just getting back, you kind of realize, oh, all right, I got a little work to do. So it's fun. It'll be cool to see how you get back from it, because it's kind of, you've been having these little lulls and these extended breaks, probably that longer than you would to take. So back to back, we'll see how it goes.
That's right. All right, guys. So thank you so much for listening to the show. To thank those that gave us a review, Eugene is going to read the most recent reviews that we got.
Yeah, here's 3 of them. So one is titled "Great Show." It says, "These guys sound very grounded and are always sharing great advice, great perspective on a wide variety of situations that are very relatable for any jiu-jitsu practitioner. Never miss an episode." And that's from Gumble86. Thank you, Gumble.
Thank you, bro.
Gumbel 86. And this one says, "Chewster. Man, Chewy's such an awesome addition to the jiu-jitsu community. I love that he's doing a podcast that shows you his genuine nature and knowledge in and out of the sport. Recommend it to anyone in the jiu-jitsu community." And that's from Slim Girth. Slim Girth.
Slim Girth?
Slim Girth.
Oh.
That is it. Yeah. So we're going to get some of that with these reviews. We're getting some funny little names. All right. This last one is from Ahern61. Ahern61. It says, "Good jiu-jitsu philosophy and good jiu-jitsu philosophy and conversation. So Chewy and Gene always delve into interesting topics related to training. Love it." So thank you guys. We appreciate the reviews. It helps grow the podcast, and we love hearing from y'all. So
yeah, thank you guys for the reviews, and appreciate you with your usernames. Slim Girth.
I didn't even, dude, I read it. I didn't even think anything of it. It reminds you of, did you see the video? There's like a little video of this like school board meeting. And so there's like people raising concerns. It's like a kind of town hall kind of meeting. And so one lady comes in, and she's like legit, she's there in person. And then there's all these people like wrote in all these names.
Oh, geez.
No. Like, the Bart Simpson.
IP Freely and stuff.
Yeah. Like that. And he's like, he just says them. And I'm like, I can't even think of any right now. They're hilarious. And like, he goes for like 4 of these names. And then finally they're like, all right, I think we're
that's fantastic. I mean, friggin' people, you can't give them that kind of like freedom to do that.
Dude, it was like, so funny. I can't think of any of them, but yeah, IP Freely and some other ones. Seymour Butts, that's another
Amanda
one.
Hug and Kiss.
Amanda Hug and Kiss.
I need Amanda Hug and Kiss.
Seymour Butts. There was some other one. There's some good ones, but probably not for the public to hear out loud from us. This is a PG-13 show.
Is it?
Maybe. I don't know what it is. Sometimes we are. Sometimes we say some stuff that's probably not appropriate, but that's all right. Get over it.
And also, one of the things with podcasting, because like when I do the videos with you guys, you have the ability to comment. If I make an Instagram post, have the ability to comment. With the videos or with the podcast, it's a little different. Like we see the numbers going up, so we know you guys are listening, which is a good thing. But then we don't get those same kind of commenting aspects of it. And so, it's one of those things where with the reviews, it allows us even to know that you guys are listening. Or even sometimes when you guys send messages to me or Eugene or something like that, it lets us kind of know like, oh, that podcast was really useful. Because again, that's kind of one of those things where if there's something you guys enjoy on the podcast, don't be afraid to shoot us a message on Instagram or email or whatever, just to let us know if there's something that on the podcast that you enjoy, because that allows us to keep that in mind when we're making other future shows or, finding new topics. It's just something that, again, because we're doing a dance essentially, just like if I'm rolling and I figure out a move that works against a particular person, I'm going to keep trying that. I'm going to find other ways to maybe utilize that same technique and things like that. It's the same thing. You're doing a dance with people as you're creating, podcasts and content where it's like, okay, we're sharing this information. This stuff was really useful to people, or this was very entertaining to people, whatever it is. Cool. I'll keep that in mind as we continue to go down the road. And so again, with the reviews or even with the messages you guys send, it's very helpful for us to do that. So feel free to give us a review if you got the time. And if you, for some reason, cannot give us a review because it doesn't exist on the particular platform, feel free to shoot us a message if there's something in the podcast that you enjoy, or if there's something that's been particularly useful to you. that can allow us to, again, to continue to make good shows and episodes for it. Because again, we do it and we enjoy doing it. We'll keep doing it. Mm-hmm. But if there's something that speaks to you, let us know.
Yeah, if you want to directly, like, get a hold of us in some way, like if you have a question or something maybe you want to see, like send the Jiu-Jitsu podcast at gmail.com. Send us a message there, and I check those and I get back to everybody. So let me know, and I'll, usually I'll check that, and me and Chewy figure it out if that's something we want to delve into. So for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's that, guys. Big thanks to the sponsors, Charlotte's Web. You can go to their website and get some CBD. Again, try it out. If you've never tried it before, try it out for a month and see what you think. See what kind of effects it has on you. But you can go to charlottesweb.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu. Save 15% on the order. If you're in the market for some new Jiu-Jitsu gear, for t-shirts, for shorts, for rash guards, for gis, for anything, check out epicrollbjj.com. Matt has a ton of stuff on that website. So if you're looking for anything Jiu-Jitsu related, he probably has it made in his own way, and he has a lot of really cool designs and a lot of cool stuff. If you want to check it out, go to epicrollbjj.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu, and you'll save 15% on the order. And if you're in the market, or maybe for someone else or for you, for some men's grooming products, check out Manscaped. You can go to their website at manscaped.com. Everything that they sell is high quality. Everything smells amazing. All the scents of the different products smells amazing, and all of the different razors and blades and things like that are high quality. And if you want to go there and save some money, you can go to manscaped.com, use the promo code Jiu-Jitsu20, save 20% on the order and get free shipping. And if you guys would like to support the podcast as well as get some extras, you can go to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. You'll get both podcast extras where we talk on the podcast to the different guests. You'll also get some videos related to everything from jiu-jitsu techniques to rolling videos to narrated rolling to stretching videos and all this different stuff. Everything's included in there. Again, if you want to check that out, you can go to that website. And if you would like to join my email list, where I send out usually one email a day, Monday through Friday, sometimes a little bit more, you can go to jujitsu.net/join, JOIN. For joining, you'll get 2 free ebooks. One is on how to develop a jiu-jitsu game plan for yourself. If you think it's a good idea to have a game plan, which I do, that's why I made the book for people, then it would be a good idea to get it. And I also have an ebook on drilling. So it has 8 different strategies on drilling that you can implement, whether you're rolling, whether you're passively drilling in an open mat, or if you have absolutely no control over your training, if you're just a student and your coach dictates how everything's going, it's a way to find some different strategies on how to make that happen. So you can get that at the website at jujitsu.net/join. And guys, with that said, thank you for joining us on this not usual episode. And we'll talk to you next time.